Okay, here we go. Our acute bob. Some assessments of the texture, bone structure, and head shape. So beginning in the back, I'll separate the two sides out. And here I'll go in and cut a super clean square line. So I'll comb the hair to natural fall. And since her hair is quite fine, I'll initially go in with the wider portion of the 107. I just refine that line to perfection and just going over it and over it several times because the guideline is imperative. If my guideline has a little tiny error in it, that error will become more evident each progressive section after. So taking down the next areas, throughout this cut for my one length, I'll be combing onto the skin. So when you're cutting on the skin, pay super close attention to the actual angle of your shears, because as your shears close, if you're working with the tips, that's what defines the reality of the angle that you're cutting. So still, working up the head in small, manageable sections, even tension. Have your eyes exactly in front of what you're cutting, and it's very smart to also stand in front of what you're cutting. Making sure each section is actually combed to natural fall. Make sure that the strands of hair that you comb are parallel to the teeth of your comb that you combed it with. Okay, so now we're moving to the side area. I'll comb out a slightly diagonal section through the right side, comb the hair to natural fall, and here I won't be cutting on the skin because her hair is quite fine. Watching the tips of my shears, making allowances for that ear, and just little by little nudge in that perfectly clean line. Again, make sure during this process that you're standing in front of what you're cutting and your eyes are consistently level to the shape that you're actually creating. You can also take the back of your comb and line it up so at least you have a perfectly square 0-degree reference. So it'll assist you to go back in and cut in that 0-degree line. So lining up the shears, eyes in front of what I'm cutting, and just working with the bare tips of my shears. I don't want to go for too much hair at one time because it's harder to execute a square line when you're using a lot of your shear, because if you're off and you cut, you can't go back and really fix that, especially when you're going shorter. So just be really careful, less is more, and take your time and just make that line super clean. Okay, now for the opposite side, it's the same technique, slightly diagonal sections, just nudging in that line, making sure you're going square, make proper allowances for the ear. Make sure that the ears are symmetrical. Most ears aren't, so if you're using the ear height and level as a landmark, that can also throw off your length. And just comb the hair to natural fall, making visual assessments of what we've created so far. Okay, and here I'll jump into graduation. So I'll come out a slightly diagonal line from the crown to the occipital bone. I'll pull this hair straight out. Have your comb, fingers, elbows, body position, all mimic the shape that you intend to cut. So I'm cutting off that weight that exists from the height of the occipital bone to that crown area. I'm just removing a bit of that because that'll encourage the overall shape to tuck under, and it'll give me a lot more movement. Okay, so next, pivoting section. Standing exactly in front of what I'm cutting, comb the hair super clean from roots to guide, and you'll find with this technique, with each progressive section, you should be cutting less hair. So with each section, you over direct slightly higher. So this will also encourage the hair to become longer and your ability to build weight. Okay, it's essential throughout this part that your fingers and elbows actually mimic the shape that you're cutting. If you were to drop your elbow here, that angle through the left side will become way too intense. So it may be a bit uncomfortable, but everything has a price. And if you really want to go out and nail a haircut perfectly, your body position plays a key role in the overall end result. Okay, so now approaching the opposite side, I'll work in the same sections. I'll take my guideline from the left, and again, I'm building in my shape from the lengths that exists from the occipital bone, reaching up to the crown area. Elbows, fingers, shears, shoulder, body position are all slightly slanted, so as I cut, I also become the angle that I'm cutting. I become an acute angle. I also physically become graduation, which allows me for the greatest amount of control. Okay, so here I'm just combing the hair out. Once you reach the level around the occipital bone, you'll basically be just dusting hair, because again, that's a shape that we're creating. So now I'll take diagonal sections that incorporate lengths from the back and the sides. I'll comb the hair up and out, and I'll just continue to follow that graduated line that I created through the back, and each progressive section through the front will be over directed to this exact same point. So here, make sure that you're actually combing the hair super clean from roots to ends. If you have any snags in the hair that you just combed, i.e. the hair that you just combed isn't parallel to the teeth of your comb, those snags or the swiggles and the lines that you combed, they actually represent longer lengths. So even though within your fingers you'll see a clean line, you're actually messing up your guideline. So just be aware of that. So just make visual assessments, and we'll jump into our blow dry. Okay, so for the finish, I'll just use a paddle brush, and I'm going in for a nice organic with not too much root lift. So now that the hair is dry, I have to go back and clean my shape, because the hair lies significantly different wet and dry, especially fine hair. Fine hair, when it's wet, it's a lot heavier. So now that the hair has been finished off really natural, I can go back and clean up my shape. So now I'm going back to my graduation, and I just want to remove weight. I don't want to change my shape, so I'm just chipping into just the bare tips of the shape that we actually cut. And as I go through my shape to cross-check and texturize, I prefer using, with this technique, sections that were quite similar to the sections that the shape was cut at. And since I'm going for a softer aesthetic, as I chip into the hair, I'm chipping in the hair at a high elevation, because again, this texturizing method will make the shape softer, and also texturizing with a higher elevation will also increase that softness. Okay, and remember, as we texturize, we're working in shadows, and we're aiming for even distribution of the weight. And always use a mirror. As you're texturizing, drop a section, come into natural fall, and always make visual assessments. So use the mirror a lot, and just again, be careful of the angle that you're using when you texturize. I prefer using a tighter angle on fine hair, because I'd rather go to the same spot a bit more, as opposed to once with a big angle and just hitting chunks into the shape. Okay, so now we're jumping into the fringe. So I'll go and I'll cut just a busted up fringe, a bunch of little acute angles that connect, that give me a broken fringe aesthetic. Now when you're doing this, make sure that your eyes are exactly in front of what you're cutting. Don't go in and cut too much too fast. Just work them in piece by piece, and just work modular. So when I put in an angle, I'll go back and I'll just keep on cleaning that angle over and over again. Push the hair around so you see how it falls naturally and how it falls with some movement, because it has to look nice in both positions. Okay, so still working in those areas. Have your eyes exactly in front of what you're cutting. Don't rush these angles. You have to get each of them really clean. So once you clean an angle then go clean it the other side and just keep on working back and forth, combing to natural fall, combing slightly off natural fall, cleaning. It takes time to nail these types of fringes. Just don't rush it because it's all in the details. Especially if you want to go for something that's quite dramatic and exaggerated like this. It's really intelligent not to rush it. Take your time, do it right, do it once. Okay, and there we have it, our planet bob acute. Enjoy.